So, my dearest colleagues, let me start our webinar, like the part of harnessing the technology to the future education series of IITE. And now let me just give the floor to Natalia, Amelina, the Senior National Specialist and the head of the unit of Teachers Professional Development and Networking in IITE. Starting and greeting our guests and panelists. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oleg. Oleg, thank you so much. Dear colleagues, dear participants, dearest experts and speakers, greetings from the UNESCO Institute for Information Technologies in Education. Today we have a very interesting topic of our webinar, which is related to Metaverse. And in my short presentation, I will give you some historical view of implementation of our project related to advanced technologies in education and Metaverse as well. And we'll let you know about our schedule and experts panel for today's discussion. So let's start. And please keep your questions with you. I think that we will have enough time for today's discussion and we will be able to answer your questions. Yes, thank you. I can see my presentation. So our first slide illustrates how popular and actual is the theme of our today's webinar. The search returns in the different and bright results. However, my remark is mostly not about the Metaverse, but about UNESCO IITE contribution in this wide discourse. Next slide, please. Around 10 or even 15 years ago, the concept of the virtual learning environment appeared in the professional discourse whenever the future of education was discussed, and the UNESCO Institute for Information Technologies in Education contributed a lot to this trend. At about the same time, business obtained their own concept of ecosystem, which was copied from biology and significantly developed the construct in the areas of trade and services. Next slide, please. Now, during the last year and the current year, business and education meet in the Metaverse, a vast digital landscape with multiple advantages, such as extended reality, new ways of communication, learning, and transactions. The reasons for this merger are the new, quickly and globally expanding technology of Web 3 and the new reality where digital and real life coexist in interconnecting, interpenetrating each other. The slide shows how wide is the discussion about Web 1 and Web 3 to Web 3 evolution. Next slide, please. UNESCO IITE, in collaboration with stakeholders from all over the world, supports and enhances the Metaverse-related promotion of educational research and practice, both for teachers and learners. During the last 3 years, a number of flagship conferences, webinars, and trainings have been either co-organized or held under auspice of the Institute. In 2021, at the sub-forum Metaverse and Immersive Technology in Teaching and Learning of the Global Massive Online Open Course and Online Education Conference, the scholars and representatives of leading tech companies had in-depth in-depth discussions on the concept of the metaverse, the integration of metaverse technology and in education, as well as the latest innovations in the metaverse and education. And our institute was the co-organizer of this forum. Next slide, please. Last year, the Global Smart Education Conference, also co-organized by the Beijing Normal University and UNESCO IITE, took place in Beijing. The conference was held online and offline and live streamed on Metaverse. The values shared on the separate forum on teacher education in Metaverse world within the conference brought the audience of educators to the idea that education is one of the main fields for designing innovative metaverse world, providing an immersive and interactive teaching and learning experiences for teachers, students, and other educational stakeholders. Next slide, please. Last year, UNESCO IITE and Beijing Normal University joined their forces to promote the practical application of ICT in education and organized the 5th global competition in design for future education. Every year, the geography of the competition is expanding, the number of its participants is growing, and the quality and significance of the projects are increasing. The metaverse in education was one of the key fields of the competition, and you can see one of the related presentations on the slide. Next slide, please. The significant part of our collaboration in Metaverse in Education agenda is in connection with the Shanghai Open University. The Open Education and Lifelong Learning Forum AI leads a new era of open education and lifelong learning, successfully ran in a hybrid mode in Shanghai. The event was organized by the UNESCO IITE within the 2022 World Artificial Intelligence Conference. During the session, the Vice President of the Shanghai Open University, Mr. Wong Hong, presented the release of the Metaverse technology application in open education. Through the Metaverse technology, the application realizes the functions of virtual and real coexistence of intelligent classroom, intelligent teaching assistant, virtual training, and personal digital learning life, which creates a more situational and personalized new open teaching environment. Next slide, please. Last year, our institute, jointly with the Shanghai Open University, conducted an analytical study on the preparation of guidelines for the application of the educational metaverse in open education. Let me inform you that all of our publications and resources, as well as training courses, you will be able to find at our website, the website of our institute. Next slide, please. One more project, IIT, with the support of Nisai Group, ran the webinars to implement the innovative initiative on transforming teaching and learning at schools for achieving SDG 4, turning theory into practice with ICT. This project was focused on the Russian Federation, and we had the great evidence of how to use the metaverse-related programs in teaching. On the slide, you can see how the teacher and class built the school in Minecraft. Next slide, please. Last but not the least event held by our institute together with its partners is the YouTube presentation and follow-up webinar by Professor Phillips, the Dean of the School of Education and Cognitive Science of Asia University in March and April this year. The two events were dedicated to the introduction of the online course, The Metaverse in Education, What, Why, and How, developed jointly by UNESCO IITE and Asia University in the framework of the project supported by NetDragon, Chinese company NetDragon, which is titled Teacher Capacity Building with AI and Digital Technologies, e-library for teachers. This course is also placed in our e-library platform. Next slide, please. In the course, our partner Asia University suggested the vision of the metaverse as an exciting platform that opens up a whole new landscape for education and training. It is broadly defined as a three-dimensional, interconnected, and immersive experience leveraging on augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality. The course aims to provide educators with an in-depth understanding of the metaverse learning in the 3D landscape, tools and technologies for the metaverse, potential for teaching and learning, and issues related to safety and ethics in the metaverse. Next slide, please. Let me say some words about our speakers today, our dearest experts who participate in our today's webinar. Asian University founder and the president, Professor Ansary, will be one of the speakers at the webinar. His presentation as the part of the webinar will be dedicated to the outline of the course creation, resources, and outcomes. Another speaker of the webinar is Dr. Christina Zhang, will discuss the opportunities and challenges associated with the introduction of the metaverse into educational processes. She will aim to present both sides of the pragmatic approach for educators to maximize its benefits and to minimize potential risks. And finally, Dr. Roushdat from University of Mauritius will address a practical case of applying the metaverse for out-of-classroom learning in order to address declining interest of students in scientific subjects. And finally, carrying out the metaverse research in the field of education will help us to further clarify its connection and future trend and provide new ideas for seeking a high quality educational development path, reshaping and relationship between education subjects and solving problems such as educational equity. As the users of the metaverse, teachers will need to explore how metaverse could be applied in teaching, evaluation, and management, which would help them better adapt to the development trend of technology-empowered educational innovation and change. So welcome to Metaverse, dear participants. Thank you very much for your attention. Back to you, Oleg.
Okay, thank you. Let me give the floor to Professor Ansary, and I will share the screen. One second.
Thank you very much, Oleg, for doing the needful, and thank Natalia for the good introduction. What IITE has been doing for the last 3 years, I think, for the last 3 years. Let me just very quickly go through some of the areas that I wanted to cover, and let's go to the next slide, please, Oleg. Next slide, please.
Does it work?
No, am I getting it?
We cannot see the screen.
I cannot see the screen.
I see. Let me share the screen with you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. I'm just going to fly through some statistics here. The next decade is going to see something like 50 million post-secondary school graduates and nearly 800 million more K-12 graduates, than today. So that's a huge number. And the world will add another, what they call 100 over million, students, kind of thing. And if you look at it, 1.5 million teachers per year on average, approaching 100 million in total. And 50% of them teach in pre-K or pre-K at primary, what they call schools. Now, there's a lot of teacher and student interactions going to take place in the next decade. Next slide, please. And 1 billion learners at 3 million schools, colleges, and universities around the world will be depending on innovation, both from the teaching side, from the teacher side, as well as themselves to be innovators. Next slide, please. I just wanted to say this thing. We are all very what you call familiar with education technology, which is basically methods and practices used to learn and to facilitate learning. It's the way we learn and the way we teach. And now when we talk about technology in learning, it's a lot more broader. It refers to the tools, both hardware and software, apps, processors, assessment, tracking student learning, educational organizations, learning management systems, in short, the way we do things in terms of learning and teaching in education. So it's much broader in terms of technology in learning. And this is where the Metaverse comes to play in terms of technology in learning. Next slide, please. And SDG recognizes the role of technology in all forms of education and training. So if you talk about, SDG 4 in particular, then there's a lot of what they call technology that's expected, because we know that with technology, it's a double-edged sword. It can bring down costs. At the same time, it can raise up barriers, for those people who are not as well endowed with technology itself. So we got to have, appropriate technology in the appropriate kind of scenarios and settings. Next slide, please. So all that's for the introductions. Okay, why are we doing this particular what you call webinar on Metaverse? Because I think the whole world has shifted towards digital and digital content. And this is what they call survey done with students. And they all, as you can see, the majority, 97%, 87%, 81%, 70s over kind of percentage are very interested in terms of using digital content, saying that, digital content is much better for them to understand the difficult concepts. They prefer to have online questionnaires and be interactive in there. They feel that, digital content will help them to have better qualifications and useful retraining and driving their knowledge acquisition itself. So our clients out there are looking for digital content. Now, how do you send the digital content out in a very attractive format? Next slide, please. So let's come to the Metaverse fundamentals. I'm just going to go through very quickly because I think most of us know what it's all about. Very quickly, next slide, please. Okay, the term Metaverse itself, I think everybody refers to what they call snow crash and Neil Stephenson. You cannot run away from that in 1992, Meta meaning beyond and universe kind of thing. And then when Facebook rebranded themselves into Meta, that popularized the term Metaverse itself. And Metaverse itself actually doesn't really refer to any specific type of technologies, but rather a broad, what they call gambit of technologies. Next slide, please. Okay, what is the Metaverse in the simplest form? I'm going to try to simplify it in simplest form kind of thing. So it says that Metaverse basically is fully functional digital world existing beyond the boundaries of physical world, sometimes interacts with a physical world. It brings together fragmented virtual worlds, which can be different types of virtual worlds together into one shared digital space. It's a collection of all virtual augmented reality that comes in, and we also start using other kinds of learning technologies to help in the learning and the teaching. For example, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence plays an important role. And now we're seeing machine learning playing more and more a role in terms of what they call the Metaverse itself. Next slide, please. So just a few buzzwords, a lot more buzzwords. I can give a dozen buzzwords. I just took 4 of those buzzwords. I know one of them is the mirror world. I think everybody talks about the mirror world very much about thing where it says, we mirror the what they call the physical world in the virtual world kind of thing. The digital twin itself, virtual representation of objects and aspects of real world coming into the digital world. what they call, Natalia referred to the mixed realities, MRs or XRs. You can talk about XRs as well, extended reality kind of thing, which is a mixture of all those things emerging into the metaverse kind of thing. And then I thought I would bring also these NFTs, because I think NFTs are also becoming quite popular when you talk about the metaverse, you know, and that is now becoming something that you can, what they call, start looking at blockchains and NFT, and also the fact that this can be tradable digital assets. And people are getting into this. Even in education itself, we are looking at this tradable digital assets, and we find more and more companies driving the metaverse world in the education world, rather than universities and schools driving the, what they call, NFTs kind of thing. All right, next slide, please. Okay, I'm just going to go to the next slide for the second question. How is the metaverse applied in education? Next one. Yeah. So I think everybody has seen this too. They talk about augmented reality, live logging, mirror world, virtual reality. And if you look at all this, what you call terminologies that you use, you know, kind of thing, they're all used. But I think recent survey done in 2022 shows that the bulk of the metaverse activity, 61% of metaverse publications are actually in terms of virtual reality. And another 30% in terms of augmented reality. In terms of live logging and mirror world, not so much. It's still, you know, minority users kind of thing. Next slide, please. So I just put this up. I took this from Kai. I think everybody is aware of this, what you call a diagram as well. We're talking about, you know, the x-axis being external on the left-hand side and internal on the right-hand side. And talking about the y-axis, you know, the top being augmentation, at the bottom being simulation. And where does augmented, virtual, lifelong learning, and mirror sits in there? So I can see most of the activities are taking the right-hand bottom of the matrix, and in the left-hand, the top left-hand corner of the matrix. Very little is going on in terms of mirror world and lifelong learning as far as teaching and learning is concerned. Next slide, please. Okay, I just thought to recap what is the difference between traditional, online, and metaverse education. As you can see, in terms of online and metaverse education, you know, there's quite a lot of similarities there, you know, but there's a lot of difference between metaverse, online, and traditional education, as you can see. But I think the most important thing is that, you know, when you talk about metaverse education, it can be very personal, it can be all-round education. It's very much what they call sharing, and it's one-to-many and one-to-one, and you can have all those things that is going on and making it more and more what they call interactive and much more interesting. And if you can see also in terms of technology support, the metaverse educators are using more Web 3.0 rather than Web 2.0. Next slide, please. Okay, so let me just go quickly. There's 7 ways in which the metaverse will change education. I took this also from Kai. You know, number 1 is, of course, we'll talk about much more greater immersive, what they call experiences. That's for sure, because in the metaverse, you immerse yourself through your avatar, etc., kind of thing. It allows you to visualize even atomic particles and subparticles, etc., and all that kind of thing. It reduces learning cost and risk. I think this is still a question mark whether metaverse really reduces cost and risk, because I think there is still a factor of cost, because it's still early at the infancy, and we talk about using utilization of assets or purchasing assets kind of thing. There is a cost element there in terms of technology. There's a cost element there in terms of infrastructure. There's a cost element there in terms of training too. There's a cost element there. Is of course the metaverse opens up. There's no limit to time and space. It allows you to go in there and do whatever you want. It says preventing academic misconduct. Yes, it does. At the same time, it also can create other issues kind of thing. It's highly personalized, and you can go in there and do things by yourself and customize your own what you call learning and teaching experiences. And of course, it promotes what you call a lot of what you call interactivity and communication among various parties. Now, just to talk about the metaverse itself, in terms of education itself, it's nothing new. You know, in 2006, Kemp et al. Talked about using metaverse in education. And in 2006, a very interesting year, Stanford Research Institute had a summit to talk about drawing a roadmap for metaverse in education in 2006. But nothing really happened in terms of progress from 2006 right up to what they call 2019, 2020 is when the COVID hit. That's when the interest in metaverse picked up, and a lot of publications came about in 2021, and it started to become exponential in 2022 kind of thing. Next slide, please. right? Okay, it's nice. Okay, we got the advantages and disadvantages of using Metaverse in education kind of thing. I just put very quickly some advantages here that is not comprehensive. I just put a few of them. Okay, number one, it connects the world and negating physical distances, removing physical distances, of course, an immersive experience, better social interactions. In other words, you use social media much more interactively and much more what you call usefully, upgrading the use of social media. New pedagogical opportunities. I think this is something that is still being researched on. I think most of us, what you call educators, are still looking at how do we use these technologies, these combined technologies, to have a new pedagogic theory in terms of learning and teaching itself. And of course, it improves online and blended learning as a whole. Gamification is something that we all talk about, but it's not enough of it is happening as far as learning and teaching. If you talk about what you call higher education, etc., kind of thing, that's not enough for gamification that's taking on, but it allows us to gamify a lot of the learning and teaching that we would like to do. Now, it also allows us to connect very easily. And I would put here a summary. I took this out from what you call from Lee and et al. Kind of thing. So it allows you to connect remotely. It allows you to study and also have what you call remove down barriers of discrimination, etc., and all that kind of thing. It also allows you to have that exploration, what you call to go and go on a journey of discovery, to discover your own self and your own teaching and learning journey, kind of thing. Allows you to think, because the interactivity can be done at different levels and allows you to think through cognitively, so it improves your cognitive, etc. And most important too, it allows you to play, because I think gamification is one very good way of learning how to what they call concepts, etc. kind of thing. Next slide, please. Now, I thought I need to talk about a little bit of technologies that is used in Metaverse education. So just one slide, one summary slide, which I got from what you call from Lee. I think this talks about, it summarizes the whole usage of the kind of technologies which are there. When you talk about immersive, you talk about virtual reality, extended reality, you talk about mixed reality, etc., and augmented reality. Artificial intelligence is coming more and more into what you call into Metaverse. You talk about gamification. Example here is Pokemon, but of course there are Roblox, you have what they call Minecraft, etc. kind of thing. Various platforms can be incorporated as well. You can see hot potatoes there, you can see model, etc. kind of thing being coming in as well. And on the other side, you have modeling and simulation. You have different what they call
Excuse me.
Yeah. You have a lot of what they call open simulators now being OpenSim is being now used a lot for what they call for modeling and simulation of what they call learning experiences. And then of course, mobile devices are becoming more and more important. A lot of people use mobile devices together with augmented reality, in other words, to reach out to what they call to lesser, what they call endowed, what they call the technology endowed communities kind of thing. And of course, you're talking wearable technology, we talk of sensors, etc. kind of thing. So this is just what they call one snapshot of the kind of technologies which are being utilized as far as Metaverse is concerned. Next slide, please. Okay, let me go to some of the disadvantages now. I think that I had more disadvantages than advantages actually. So number one is expensive infrastructure. I think people are still struggling in terms of infrastructure for Metaverse is concerned. Number two is no rules. I think because it's still in its infancy, there's no oversight actually in terms of Metaverse usage in terms of education. Cultural biasness can come in. You talk about usability, accessibility issues. You talk about assets as the kind of use for Metaverse. This is becoming an issue. Storage of competency, expertise. This too is becoming an issue as far as Metaverse is concerned. Ethical considerations, very, very important, because the Metaverse opens up a whole Pandora's box as far as ethical and what you call considerations are concerned. Cybercrime, we're talking about theft of digital identity. There's something which is happening already as when you talk about a Metaverse. Next slide, please. All right, it has a negative impact on culture and societies. I think we know that because of addiction, etc., and all that kind of thing. And then students who spend so much time in the Metaverse world kind of thing are losing the connection in reality in the real world itself. We talk about mental health issues is happening, virtual bullying is happening, and also there's the other things that comes to that kind of thing. So I think there are lists of disadvantages, but does the disadvantages negate all the advantages? I don't think so. And in fact, I would think that we can manage those disadvantages if we start looking at the cons of the Metaverse. We can manage them quite well and allow the Metaverse to grow as far as learning and teaching is concerned and be much more effective for the students' learning itself. Next slide, please. Now, in terms of challenges and opportunities in the metaverse.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Second last slide, like I think, if I'm mistaken.
So this slide, please. So the question for challenges and opportunities.
Just go down. I think if you go down, you will see I think it's the third last slide, penultimate. Yeah, two slides for the questions.
So you mean here, disadvantages, and then we are going to the challenges and opportunities from Metaverse.
Yeah, that's right. I don't see the slide though.
Oh,
Sorry, I can't see the slide. Right.
let me share the screen again. I'm sorry. Happens. So now it's loaded. Do you see the slide?
Nope.
Now the participants, please tell me. Do you see the
Can you see the
slide?
slide? It's just I can't see the slide, is it?
Yes, I can.
You can. Oh yeah, I can't see the slides. This is interesting. Okay. All right, let me just very quickly go through what I can see here, but I can't see the slide there itself. But when I'm talking about talking about opportunities, it's like I thought these are some of the opportunities that we have. Developing metaverse educational models for frameworks kind of thing. This is open now. Now I can finally see my slide. Yeah. So as I said earlier, we will not. There are no real theoretical frameworks as such. Looking at developing them, etc. And I think that gives us a lot of opportunities to do new models for learning and teaching kind of thing. Developing the effects of metaverse on educational environments and on learning itself kind of thing. Employing the metaverse for assessment, I think is something that that gives us opportunities to assess students differently rather than being didactic about it. And I think we can do a lot more problem-based, project-based, cooperative, team-based kind of assessment kind of thing that allows that to happen a lot more than what has happened before. So that's something which is good, and also it allows us to look at existing pedagogical theories and redefining those theories, taking into account the features of the metaverse. I think that's something that we need to look at, because it allows us to look at the role of the instructor itself and the role of the student and the role of the content itself, and how do we look at this model of the content and their roles kind of thing. Next slide, please. And we talk about the LMS. We can talk about personalizing the way they learn in terms of the learning environment itself. We can talk about developing training programs which are difficult in the real world context, but when we can do it in the virtual context and bring down the cost and allow them to really practice on it. I think the new roles for AI in metaverse, I think this is something which is going to become much more important. I think AI is going to play a very important role as far as education is concerned. And we're looking also in terms of ethical principles that need to be applied in terms of the education setting, and we'll talk about metaverse education setting itself. So these are all opportunities for us to really look at the metaverse and providing opportunities for us to revisit all our old pedagogical theories as far as teaching and learning, and coming up with new ones, because our clienteles are changing. They're digital natives. They're now metaverse natives, as opposed to us coming from the analog world, becoming digital workers kind of thing, and now they're moving on, and so now it's going to become metaverse workers, or the workers of the future. So I think these are all opportunities for us, and we should not let go the chance. So I think I'm looking at this as more as an opportunity in terms of education, rather than a threat to education and present context of what is going on in teaching and learning. So I think that's about it. Thank you very much, Oleg, for the for doing the needful with the slide deck, and thank everyone for the time given to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ansary. It was very sensitive. Thank you. Stop sharing the screen. Dearest colleagues, let me give the floor to Dr. Christina, the Metaverse Institute CEO, and her presentation will be also very fruitful for us. I hope should education move to the metaverse, opportunities and changes.
Thank you. Thanks very much for the opportunity. Let me just share my screen. Can you see my screen here?
Yes.
Wonderful. Let's make a start. So everyone, it's really a great pleasure today to talking about Metaverse for education, opportunities and challenges. So a lot of people will tell me that the Metaverse is really a new reality, but we all know the concept itself is nothing new. It was, as mentioned by our previous speaker, it was coined by Neil Stevenson in 1992. So that's nearly 40 years ago, the whole concept. And when the concept was started, it's very much focusing on VR related immersive experience for better interaction between people. But that was 40 years ago. And the world's first Metaverse is a platform called Second Life. As some of you might remember, it was created in 2003 by a company based in San Francisco called Linden Lab. And Second Life is not a traditional game. So basically, residents can go into Second Life. They can explore all kinds of activities, live there, buy properties like we do now, and experience training, simulations, and entertainment, etc. So it's almost like a parallel digital world in addition to our physical world. And Second Life has get a lot of attention like 20 years ago and see very rapid growth for many years. And in 2013, it has about 1 million active regular users. And also in 2015, it has about 60 million like US dollars like contributed by its user, and also an estimated GDP of about $500 billion. And it's still going now, although it's perhaps having less high profile compared with it used to be. And at that time, we also have someone called Ansary, and she became the world's first virtual millionaire in November 2006, and she achieved a net worth of over $1 million from profits entirely generated in the metaverse by selling virtual fashions, virtual properties, etc. And CNN called her Rockefellers of Second Life. I started the journey a little bit early. As mentioned by the previous speaker, there is a professor who are working on education using Metaverse. And I started in the same year in 2006 at Loughborough University of the UK. So I was doing my master dissertation of using Second Life, the world's first Metaverse platform, to develop international strategies for universities worldwide, which I completed shortly, and then was very lucky to get a full scholarship to continue my research, but in entirely different subject area. So I was using digital twins, another buzzword, in the metaverse environment to simulate and augment, optimize real-world construction, engineering, and architectural projects, which I completed in 2012. So I spent a long time immerse myself fully in the world's first metaverse, Second Life, OpenSea, and other platforms. So it's quite interesting to see something I was so passionate about suddenly become so mainstream recent years. So what we're going through now is actually really the second wave of mass adoption, started in 2021. And if we have a look here, you can see there is a very famous metaverse hype cycle, and you can see starting with Snow Crash in 1992. There has been lots of like attractions on metaverse, and sort of died down a little bit. And the second launch came in 2008. It really reached a peak and then going down again. And then, of course, as many of you have remembered, Facebook changed the name into Meta, and they get so much attention. And everyone's talking about how this is going to be the next biggest thing, generating between 1.5 trillion US dollars, as predicted by PwC. And then McKinsey said it's 5 trillion US dollars by 2030. And then Citi Corporation said it's between 8 to 13 trillion US dollars. So there is a lot of excitement about Metaverse from the industry, from government. So how can we really looking at Metaverse for the future of education? I would like to share a few key observations on a macro level. The first one is actually every single education institute are really passionate about digital strategy. So how could we develop a holistic Metaverse strategy to really benefit our universities, our colleges, our schools, and the future of education moving forward? There are some education institutions already done some interesting things, and I would say from more bottom-down way. So the smaller one will be looking at Metaverse-related micro-credentials, CDD, or credits. And if they want to do a little bit more, they probably would do like Metaverse-related bachelor degree, master degree, or PhD degree. So that's like level 1. And if they want to do a little bit further, they're probably looking at how to use Metaverse to develop cross-disciplinary institutes, to looking at combining teaching, research, enterprise in one place. So that will really allow the institution to, develop a whole life chain ecosystem to provide lifelong learning for their students, their alumni, their industrial partners. So that's a second layer. And one layer above that is some universities or education institutions, they were looking at building a Metaverse campus. And again, I can tell you, this is nothing new. While I was working on Second Life, like 20 years ago, I think at that peak time, there are more than 100 universities worldwide who have virtual campus in Second Life, and they are doing all kinds of simulations, trainings, teachings. They are trying to do marketing, student recruitment using Metaverse, and it seems to be working very well. Yeah. And of course, if they want to have a holistic strategy about Metaverse, so they can pretty much incorporate that as part of their wider digital strategies moving forward. So I think there is one university, I think they started quite early. It's a university based in Cyprus. It's called University of Nicosia. Some of you probably have heard about this university before. So Meta changed the name in October 2021, and they started a comprehensive Metaverse strategy of the university 1 month after. So you can see they have a whole list of interesting things they have been doing ever since. For example, as I mentioned, they are doing different training programs. So they have online courses about introduction on NFTs and the Metaverse. And of course, they are also developing a master's degree about Metaverse, mainly focusing on helping people who want to have a career in Metaverse management and design to prepare for the job market, which is very forward thinking. And also, they are looking at how to use Metaverse to develop their research capacities and policy influence with government. So what they did is they set up a center for an open Metaverse. And as I mentioned, it's truly interdisciplinary. So they bring computer scientists, they bring social scientists, they bring digital, they bring artists, they bring people who are interested in teaching all together in one institute and looking at how to generate more research outcome through this collaboration, which is very interesting. And also on the policy side, they set up the Open Metaverse Alliance. Basically, it's a consortium of universities, business, non-for-profit organizations, and the government to looking at how to set up regulatory framework and guidance on an open and decentralized Metaverse. Again, that was very much welcomed by the community. And of course, I think as part of what we do as education institutions, we really want to foster innovations and entrepreneurship. So the interesting thing I noticed from them is they actually launched an incubator dedicated on NFT and Metaverse startup in December 2021. So that was like nearly 2 years ago, quite early stage. And also they are having NFT galleries on campus. So they have a physical one as well as virtual one. And one thing I noticed, which I find really fascinating, is they actually allow donors to donate scholarship and industry collaboration fund to the university using NFT and different cryptocurrencies. So I thought that was like a very, bold move for like a university to do something like that. So maybe there's something we can learn. But of course, that was 2 years ago they started. And now we see a lot of universities, education institutions worldwide, they are really pushing the boundaries, as we have, talk about today by Asia University. I think guys are doing a wonderful job to launch this course as well. And of course, there are on European-wide, there is a consortium called the European Consortium of Innovative University. They are a group of 12 research-intense universities. So they have been explored using Metaverse for collaborative in terms of teaching as well as research. And it was funded by the European Commission. So I can see worldwide, there are many different governments and public bodies who are looking at this space and try to really maximize its positive impact for education of the future, which is really great. Personally, I think the second most major things we should thinking about when it comes to Metaverse is really experiential learning. When I say that is, we know education is so multidisciplinary. There are many different subject areas. Should we move all of the subject area to the Metaverse? I think consider the cost and the initial investment to get all the IT set up and get our teachers trained. Maybe we can do it step by step by focusing on the subject area, which are either too dangerous to explore in real life, or it's too expensive, or it's physically difficult to do. So since I would say aerospace, we can do lots of simulations, in the Metaverse to teach our students how the Big Bang Theory actually works and how the star is born. And we can do that simulation to allow the students to see that and interact with it. It's really cool. So aerospace will definitely be one area. Another area I think will be anything to do with healthcare. I give you one really amazing example. Last year in August, there is a surgery performed by a London-based surgeon, and he is supervising a group of surgeons based in Brazil to successfully separate a twin who has got their brain and head linked together. They both are 3 years old. It has been considered as one of the most challenging medical surgeries in the human history, and very few of similar cases ever succeed before. So what they did is they coming together as an international team involving about 100+ medical staff, and they have put the physical medical data of both of the twins into the computer, get that generated in the virtual environment, and then they use VR goggles to practice different scenarios on how to perform the surgery to maximize the survival rate of the twin. And they did the training for several months, and in the end, they performed, I think, 8 surgeries in total. The last one lasted 27 hours, and it was the London-based surgeons wearing the VR and be in the same virtual environment together with all the other medical staff in Brazil and instruct them to perform the surgery, and then it succeeds. And the twins, they are still surviving and they are recovering really, really well. So you can see this is a major, major breakthrough. Imagine we can use this to allow the most advanced like surgeons in the world to help developing countries to perform some of the most difficult like surgeries or medical operations. What a major positive impact we can make that internationally. That would be really amazing. And another area I think a lot of you probably have thought about is advanced manufacturing. And this area is already being widely used in terms of different robotic like assistants for many decades. But I think the beauty about Metaverse is really to allow external users, especially clients who doesn't really understand the complicated process, to see how their, let's say, I got a BMW car, I really want it to be pink, and maybe with some lovely, you know, logo with panda or dragon, however you want it. And then you can actually ask BMW to use digital twin to custom design your car. And you can see the whole process, you know, using Metaverse and digital twin. So everything can be customized, and they already working very closely with NVIDIA to streamline their whole manufacturing process. I think involving like more than 20,000 workers and a large number of robots as well. So it's already happening. So my question is, how could the education sector, you know, being part of that process rather than say industry taking the lead to drive the Metaverse? I think we should be part of it, because when industry and the education sector come hand in hand together, we can really provide the best support to the industry. And also we address the issue of our students' employability. So it will be a mutually beneficial thing. Maybe that's something we can do more in the future with the great support of Metaverse. And of course, there are lots of really interesting things taking place in smart city, in smart construction, etc. Again, I think, you know, let's say if we want to build a major like stadium in London. I give you one example. Everyone knows in Saudi Arabia, they're working on several really amazing projects. It's called Cognitive City. So one of them is called NEO. It's a $500 billion city of the future. So there are a lot of like really cool stuff used in this smart city. But the best bit of it is actually they designed the NEO smart city in the Metaverse first and test out everything on environment impact, like safety and interaction between the citizens and the healthcare, education. The whole city was in the Metaverse and everything was optimized before they started to put it in real world to make it happen. And imagine we can do that for very large, expensive, and the long-term project. We get it right before we actually spending major money in the real world. How that's going to make our whole world better? I think, again, education institutions, we can play a really big part in it. So I'm going to talk about my third point on global employability. As I mentioned before, according to Citibank Group, they predict that the Metaverse-related economy will be valued between 8 to 13 trillion US dollars by 2030. So that means there will be a whole new range of new jobs, new industries, new sectors created as a result. And for example, we're talking about there can be like performers in the virtual space, and there will be like a virtual guide in the virtual space, a lot of community activities, etc. So how could we prepare our students and our alumni for such exciting business opportunities? Maybe I was wondering, everyone knows since the pandemic, there is a rising population of virtual internships, right? So what that means is instead of getting our students to attend physical face-to-face internship, we get a group of employers to provide remote internship, so they can still, you know, experience like proper training in a way that will help them to decide their future of their job choices. We can do the same with Metaverse. So I think we can maybe like working with some employers to looking at provide some virtual immersive pathway. It can be part of the existing training we're doing, or it can be like an add-on for our students to choose. And then, for example, we can allow them to, have some work experience in the twin Earth created by either European Commission, because European Commission puts like 200 million or 300 million euros in the next few years to create a digital twin of the Earth to prevent and mitigate any extreme weather that's taking place around the world. So that's by the public sector. We can get our students maybe doing some work of that remotely and see the digital twin and see how responsible consumption in line with UN SDG can really help to mitigate the global warming. So that would be really cool. And of course, you can see for digital twin, there are many sectors already implied by telecommunication company, for Ericsson, so they are using it for 5G signal propagation, and being used by Lockheed Martin for Wi-Fi simulation, especially in the United States. We know there has been a lot of like natural disaster as a result of, extreme hot weather in the summer. So we can use that to mitigate. And of course, we can use that to collaborate more efficiently with robots. So I think there will be a lot of opportunity how we can prepare our students for the global employability in the age of the metaverse. So that's like my top 3 opportunities I want to share with you. Now I want to also share some challenges I think we need to pay attention. The first one is really controversial. So we are all very passionate about talking the beauty of how metaverse can support our education. But up to this point of our discussion, there's no empirical data on a global scale to looking at the environment impact of running large-scale metaverse around the world, how that's going to, impact on carbon footprint. Because we all know when we try to do the simulation, whether it's the computing power of the Metaverse platform, or it can be VR, AR goggles, different haptics, voice recognition, AI. We all know AI actually has very big environmental impact. I remember watching, I think there is a statistic from MIT technology review, and they say actually train one AI massive language learning model, the impact is equivalent to 5 cars for its whole lifetime. It's a lot. So we really need to looking at the balance, because the debate is we can use digital twins to simulate a lot of things to minimize its carbon footprint. But at the same time, all the energy we use to try to simulate this kind of really high resolution, immersive environments, that energy consumption compared with, digital twin to reduce carbon footprint, is there any specific figure on global scale we can say which is the best way forward? I think that research needs to be done ASAP. And I urge any of you who are working in that space, we should really looking at that. But personally, I have a short-term or maybe medium-term solution to address this energy consumption issue. So my solution is a recent article published in Nature magazine in February this year. Basically, there is a major scientific breakthrough by a group of Japanese and US scientists, and they are using non-radioactive nuclear fusion to generate really carbon-free electricity. And according to their statement, they said with this technology, it can power the world by another 100,000 years carbon-free. So I don't know how long it might take them to get that technology fully commercialized for wider implementation. I think that's very promising, but maybe it will be maybe a few years, 5 years, 10 years before that really become mature enough for us to address the environment issue. So before that, as I mentioned, we really need to looking at the real global empirical data analysis to say, generating the metaverse, how could we do it so it does not, create any negative impact of our environment moving forward? That's critical. So that's my first challenge I want to share with you. The second challenge is also a little bit sensitive. It's led by Google. Some of you may already seen it. It started in 2020 as part of the pandemic. So what they are doing is they created a 3 to 6 months online course, which they consider the equivalent of a 3-year or 4-year bachelor degree. And the interesting of this Google career certificate is it's really, really cheap. I think it costs less than $1,000 US, something like that, really cheap. And you pretty much can finish that within 3 months doing it online when you're free. And the beauty about this new model is 75% of its graduates, they can use this certificate to get a graduate level job, which is paying them $63,600 a year US. And this program is already accepted by 200 plus top US employers. So my question is, if industry is taking the lead to have a 3-month online course, which will give our students at the age of 18 a job, which is $63,000 US a year, what should we do as colleges and universities? What are the unique selling points we're offering? Because we all know the job market globally is very, very challenging. So I think when we have really, really exciting ideas about the metaverse, we need to be very pragmatic and thinking about what are we really offering to our students that bring value to make their life easier, make their career better, and make their choice smarter. And this is our competition. It's not from another university, it's directly from the industry. So should we maybe working with the industry, or do we have any other good opportunities we should try to thinking about to ensure we are still providing value to our students of the future? That's my questions to you. Second challenge. I forgot to mention, they actually announced a scholarship, a very generous scholarship of 100 million Google Career Certificate Fund. So they are willing to provide it free of charge. So I guess this is something we need to take very seriously as educators worldwide. Yeah, the second challenge. My third challenge is actually has been widely debated in the past few months since the sudden explosion of worldwide sensation around ChatGPT and generative AI. I think the reason this is really important and relevant to the whole discussion about metaverse is because I can predict that in the next 6 months up to 12 months, worldwide, there will be more and more metaverse related, avatar, digital environment, digital assets, digital property, everything within the metaverse environment. It will be generated through generative AI related platform. And now we're talking about text to image, text to video. And I can think maybe within the next 12 months, we can have text to digital twin, text to metaverse. So you basically write one sentence and say, I want to do a simulation about, let's say, aerospace. And then the system can generate aerospace station for you within seconds or minutes. I think that technology is already available. Is how quickly it can be commercialized. So if that's the case, there will be a major things we need to pay attention, because lots of people, they telling me that the year 2021 and 2022 is the year of the metaverse. And they said the year 2023 is a year of generative AI. So they think there is a natural competition between generative AI and metaverse, which I disagree. I think metaverse, after 40 years of evolution, it has already become a whole new range of like technology converging together to form the next generation of the internet, which is more immersive, interactive, and intuitive. And generative AI is going to boost the wider adoption of metaverse very quickly. So we are going to see that coming very soon. And then associated with this, there is another really controversial but important thing we need to consider, is a debate about the technological singularity. Some of you probably have seen that, and one of the reasons I think the open letter was signed by Elon Musk and a group of leading experts around the world to say we have a 6-month pause on generative AI. I think part of that reason is because some people are worried that maybe the race worldwide around this technology has already caused potential like risk to have the faster arrival of singularity, which means the intelligence of machine exceeds the intelligence of human. And we are not really ready for that yet. So another question we need to consider is, in the future, maybe in our lifetime, when we have the robotic teacher who is smarter than our human teacher. So what should we do now to educate our teacher of tomorrow so they are offering something unique that is not offered by our robotic peers? How can we set up the framework to ensure we can collaborate together for the benefit of our students, for the future of work and jobs and the well-being of the human society? I think that's a very big debate. So that's my top 3 challenges. And the way forward, I think in general, I'm an optimistic person, but I want to, prepare for the worst scenario where strive for the best possible results. That's my approach. I think what's really important, I give you 3 tips. The first one is vision. How could we educate our students using metaverse and related technology to help them to see where they can fit rather than we fit for them? I think that's critically important. And in order to help them define the vision, we need to teach them how to ask the right questions. Because nowadays, when we put the questions in Bing or in ChatGPT, they will give a perfect, I would say 80% or 70% really well organized like answers. So in the future, perhaps with the support of generative AI and all kinds of other technologies, it's not about what you are going to do, it's about how you ask the right question to have your AI assistant deliver it in collaboration with your direction. So it's so important to ask the right question. If you get the question right, that's already half success. And Albert Einstein once said, if I had 1 hour to solve one problem and my life depended on the solution, he said, I would spend the first 55 minutes to determine the right question to ask. And as soon as I found the right question to ask, it only takes me 5 minutes to solve the problem. And it will be more and more applicable, with all this kind of automation, AIs, and metaverse moving forward. So this is something as educator, we need to pay attention. And my other point, I want to quote Rupert Murdoch's saying, and he said, the world is changing very fast. Big will not beat small anymore. It will be the fast beating the slow. So how could we teach our students to be flexible, to be agile, especially consider that in the lifelong learning journey? So they need to find the right vision, ask the right question, and move fast when they need to. And that is how we can ensure they're competitive for their lifetime journey in a world of increasing automation and robotics. So thank you. And this is my contact details. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Zhang. It was very, as I said, it will be very interesting and impressive. Thank you. Dearest colleague, let me give the floor to the Dr. Roushdat Elaheebocus. One more area which is very, sensitive for UNESCO is the regional and in education we have the wing which is called TWET. So, Dr. Roushdat, maybe you will give us more implementation of Metaverse and ideas about it, how it works with the professional education. It's very important for all the countries, East, West, South, North, doesn't matter.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Very good.
I'll just proceed to share my screen.
Yes, sir.
If you could please confirm whether you can see my screen.
Everything is fine. We hear you and the screen is full.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So greetings, everybody. Let me start by thanking the organizers of this webinar, which covers a really interesting topic, which is a metaverse in the field of education, more specifically. So myself, I'm Dr. Roushdat Elaheebocus. I'm from the University of Mauritius. And within the next few minutes, I'll be sharing with you how immersive technologies such as augmented reality, AR, or virtual reality, VR, and which are very often associated as the main technologies behind a metaverse. How can these technologies help tackle that persistent issue of the declining interest of our students worldwide in scientific subjects? So let me say this opportunity to also thank my PhD student, Ahmed, who helped me put together the talk for today. So let's proceed with that. Okay. So the declining interest for STEM, as I said, it's a worldwide phenomenon happening. And we all know that science is an essential field that drives innovation, growth, and progress in our society. Most of us, I believe, we are quite familiar with STEM acronym, which stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Students from their very young age, they are exposed to STEM, at least part of it from the primary education level itself. But things get a little bit more interesting at the secondary level. I know in different countries, they call it, they refer to secondary level as differently, but I'm talking about students age 11 to more. So at secondary level, students get to choose subjects at school. And it has been observed that over the years, fewer and fewer students are choosing scientific subjects. So why basically we have observed that students struggle to engage with scientific concepts and they lose interest in pursuing STEM careers later on. This trend is quite concerning, especially given the increasing demand for STEM professionals in the job market. And here in Mauritius, we are also facing a similar challenge. To address it, we need now to try to explore different innovative and engaging ways to teach science to our students so that they feel a bit more motivated and they feel more motivated to firstly choose scientific subjects. And I believe this is where the metaverse and different associated technologies such as VR, AR, can help us. So by creating that those immersive experiences, we can help our students to better understand scientific concepts, engage in hands-on learning, and also foster their curiosity and passion for science. So in the next few slides, what I will share with you some of the latest research in AR and VR. Of course, before that, I will also talk briefly about a survey that we have conducted in Mauritius about why this decline in interest among our students. And based on those factors, we can then try to find solutions for that. So in our effort to better understand the decline in participation in science and technology in education in Mauritius, we have conducted a survey among a sample of 129 STEM educators in Mauritius, out of approximately 3,000 educators in that area. So we have tried to find, to get access to the data that we have collected. And this reflected the perception of those educators who have been with students for many years. So they've got years of experience. And the main factors that we have found, so the first one being the survey reveals that there is a lack of career knowledge among students. So they don't really know what they will do afterwards. So choosing biology or physics, some of them might have a broad idea, like if you choose biology, maybe you can become a doctor, but this is not the only thing that you become when you are doing biology, chemistry, and things like that. There are so many other opportunities that our students, unfortunately, might not be aware. And another issue that our survey highlighted is there is a lack of effort from science organization, even universities, to promote the value of science and technology education to students. And this presents an opportunity for the integration of innovative solutions such as the Metaverse and other digital technologies to at least showcase the potential career opportunities, the exciting world of science to students that will trigger their interest. Additionally, we also found that there is the influence of parents on their children, how to select their subjects. At least in Mauritius, this is the case. But by providing those parents themselves with enough resources, enough information, even some kind of training in digital technologies, they could in turn pass that to their children. And finally, there is a need also to revisit the curriculum that we have at school. Very often we have curriculums that have been developed traditionally. Now I know many universities, even at the secondary level, we are pushing for changes to adapt to the new changing world where there is widespread digital technologies. But still, we need to review all that. And again, the Metaverse and other technologies, it has a potential to really make science education more accessible and engaging to our students. So some of those potential measures that can help increase the students' interest to and address that decline in students not choosing scientific subject could include, for example, improving the way we teach science subjects themselves. And by incorporating, for example, hands-on and more immersive learning opportunities, we can make science education more engaging and relevant to students. But of course, in real life, practically like organizing field trips every day might not be so feasible. For example, you can't just take a bunch of students and make them visit an active volcano, well, with all that risk that it includes. But with virtual reality, for example, we can, at any point in time, we can take a class of students and make them have a virtual trip on the edge of an active volcano. And another important measure is to vulgarize the promotion of science subject and job prospects. This can be achieved by showcasing real-life applications of science technology. Again, how you could do that traditionally would be to take students to visit factories, to visit labs, but we all know that all the restrictions that this could include might hinder our intention. So what we could do, again, use augmented reality, use virtual reality to enable all this to happen. So basically, to bridge the gap between science theory and real life application, we can integrate more technology and innovative solutions, both in the classroom, so within the normal curriculum, but also in out of classroom learning. So we don't need to restrict ourselves to what's happening in a class. So these days, everybody have got smartphone, have got access to smartphones. So why not use augmented reality? So you are outside, you are visiting a park, you have an application that you can open on your smartphone and start learning about your environment. So you don't need to restrict yourself, the learning part, only within classroom, but also with out of classroom learning. Of course, we need to also take care of our educators. They are an important part of that system. So if you are just focused on bringing new things, new technology for students, but it will be the educators themselves who will have to take the lead in, at least in the classroom. Outside, of course, you can have parents, you can have NGOs and all that, but within classroom, you will have educators. So maybe we need to consider providing professional development opportunities for our educators to enhance their knowledge and skills in science and technology education. This can improve the quality of teaching and ultimately increase the interest and enrollment of students in subjects. So if educators make as a subjects more appealing to students. So of course, we've been talking a lot about virtual reality and augmented reality. Just a brief summary of these technologies. I know both Dr. Ansary, Professor Ansary and Dr. Christina talked about it, so I won't be long. Basically, when we are talking about virtual reality, VR, it's like a completely simulated experience, a virtual world. Whereas when we are talking about augmented reality, it's basically our physical world, but augmented, having another layer on top of it with additional information. And very often, I remember Professor Ansary mentioned that both AR and VR, they are complementary. And this is what we tend to refer to as a mixed reality. And with the metaverse, they integrate both AR and VR. So most of the situation, you will see mixed reality, really. Of course, there are challenges associated with those technologies, especially with VR, that we shall see in one slide. I must have talked about it. So we can talk about this briefly, and then for the discussion, we can maybe if we have time, we can discuss how we can overcome the associated challenges with such technologies. So indeed, AR and VR, they are quite relevant for scientific education. As the previous speakers mentioned, you can't just go along and convert the whole educational system into the metaverse. It is quite costly. It has many implications, and maybe not all subjects they are appropriate to use VR or augmented reality. But in the case of scientific subjects, there are so many use cases out there that has demonstrated how using AR and VR would really enrich the experience of children, even enhance the learning abilities of students when they can actually see, even virtually touch. So with AR and VR, you have also tangible user interfaces where you can have all different types of feelings. And this is what we really are talking about when we refer to the metaverse. So it's a complete world in itself. But of course, we need to be careful. We are not trying to shift all our students into a completely virtual world, but we want them to also experience the reality of things. So basically engage with both the virtual and at the same time the physical world. And a brilliant example was given by one of the previous speakers about the surgery for the twins. So this, can you imagine having students trying to do a surgery like this? We will never even allow secondary level students in a hospital where they are doing live surgery. So, but with virtual reality, why not? If they want to try something, why not let them do it? If there is a mistake, if they are doing things wrong, they will see the consequences of that, but at least it will not affect things in real. It will just be virtual. But through those experiences, they will get things to remember, and definitely it will reinforce the learning experiences of students. What I've also done through my talk here, we know there are many researchers worldwide doing research in the field of metaverse, and specifically with regards to using virtual reality or augmented reality in education, more specifically in science subjects. So I've taken a few of those recent research, and you can see I've listed them here. You will get to have the whole references at the end in the slide, but if you want them, I can send them to you afterwards. So what I've done is I've tried a thematic approach. So I've tried to group them in those research and try to summarize given the limited time we have. So 3 themes that we'll be briefly talking about. AR and VR or VR in informal science learning environment. So this is our first theme. The second one, promoting motivation and engagement through the use of AR and VR in education. And finally, we'll be looking at how AR and VR can be used to enhance conceptual understanding and metacognition. So let me just have a look. So this is a first theme. So the first theme focuses on the use of AR and VR in informal science learning environment. So the first paper, Salmi, examines the use of how we can use augmented reality in a science museum to promote informal learning and enhance the visitor's experience. The study found that the AR could indeed help visitors understand the complex scientific concepts and engage them with in interactive learning. And Mikau et al. Explored the use of virtual reality for field trips, basically. And it provided students with some kind of immersive experiences of real world environment, which otherwise wouldn't be possible. Well, in terms of going to those places, but also in terms of cost. So taking a whole group of students on field trips, it does cost in terms of money, in terms of time, logistics, and all that. So the study found that those VR field trips, they can really enhance students' interest and engagement in science, and can be really a valuable tool for promoting hands-on learning. Finally, Zimmerman examined the use of augmented reality using mobile-based application. And the interesting thing with those type of applications, they can be used not only within classroom, but also outside or out of classroom learning. So in their studies, they found that augmented reality could make learning more interactive and engaging, and indeed provided students with opportunities to explore scientific concepts in real world context. So this is our first theme. For the second theme, we have Pombo et al. Who used augmented reality in science education. So their aim was to promote motivation and interest among students. They did found that augmented reality enhanced students' motivation to learn science and can provide them with opportunities to explore scientific concepts in an interactive and engaging way. And the second one, Bressler, examines the use of virtual reality in science education to promote the engagement and conceptual understanding. So their studies found that virtual reality could provide students with immersive experiences that could promote engagement and deeper understanding of different scientific concepts. And finally, Huang investigated the use of virtual reality in science education to promote motivation, engagement, and achievement. They found that VR did indeed enhance students' motivation and engagement in science learning and could lead to improved academic achievement among students. And for this theme, and AR and VR for enhancing conceptual understanding and metacognition, Yoon et al. Explored the use of augmented reality in chemistry education, and they found that it led to increased conceptual understanding as well as, of course, higher engagement and motivation. So quite linked to the previous research as well. Chen similarly found that AR enhanced students' understanding of molecular structures, as well as their ability to actually visualize and manipulate them. Imagine trying to explain this on a board, so molecular structure, and compare this to seeing it in 3D in front of you. So really change how you are learning this. And one notable study in this theme is a work by Huang as well. We saw that in the previous slide. There AR-based simulation for learning electromagnetic induction in physics. The study found that students who used those AR simulations showed significantly higher levels of conceptual understanding and problem-solving skills than those who actually did not use that AR app. Well, indeed, these papers together collectively, they suggest that both technologies, augmented reality, virtual reality, they have the potential to really enhance students' conceptual understanding and metacognition in science education, particularly in fields that involve quite abstract and complex concepts. So by providing students with those immersive and interactive experiences, AR and VR can really help our students to better visualize, to understand those abstract concepts. So we can say that those research, they demonstrate that both AR and VR, they do indeed contribute to enhance science education by promoting conceptual understanding and metacognition. Of course, you can't just take this for granted. It will have to be contextualized and be taken on a case-to-case basis. That's why we don't have, at the moment, from what I understand, we don't have like a universal guideline how to include those immersive technologies in the traditional educational system. So I know many universities, even high schools, they have started experimenting this. They have tried to come up with courses, but still, we still have many challenges that we need to face, and there's still a long way to go to come up with like a universal way of how to do things, whether this can happen or not, or whether we will keep exploring and then new technologies coming in, and we keep trying and see what works. So from what I understand, in different scenarios, different things will work. It will also depend on the infrastructure that is available in a place, the level of digital literacy of students or of the population themselves. So there are many stakeholders at play here, not just schools, not just educators, but even it goes up to the level of governments, of the industry as well, companies, how they can help all those stakeholders coming together. So, of course, we have a number of challenges that I mentioned. While both augmented and virtual reality, they are very nice technologies. When we talk about them, all the nice things that we can do, there are a number of challenges. Firstly, limited access to technology. So depending on access to those technologies, those equipment, which are for augmented reality, I know it's quite affordable now through the use of at least smartphones. But when we talk about VR goggles, even in Mauritius specifically, we could easily count in the dozens how many VR goggles are present on the island. So of 1.2 million, you might have a dozen of VR goggles owned by individuals. I know, for instance, at the University of Mauritius, at the moment, we have none. We don't have any Googles, VR Googles. We have been procuring, we have been taking them on loans, but we don't own them actually. So this is definitely a barrier. And of course, the next one is the lack of training and professional development. What's the use of even having those technologies, having those equipment, if you don't have anyone who know how to use them? Because it's not just like a video game, you just plug it. You have to develop your curriculum, you have to develop materials. At least you might have to customize existing material and integrate them in your syllabus. So we need to look at how to train educators to use that. And of course, there is a resistance to change, which is quite universal. When you are trying to do things differently, you will have resistance, be it from educators themselves. You will have resistance from students as well, who might, prefer the old ways. But I know from students, the new generations, they are more eager to take technologies, to adopt technologies. And of course, in terms of high cost for implementing and maintaining those AR and VR technologies. So to conclude, I must say is that the decline in interest in scientific subject is real. So all the statistics unfortunately point to that, and it's a worldwide phenomenon. What we could use here is some kind of innovation, and the metaverse, with all the different associated technologies, they have really the potential to reverse that trend. Of course, there are those challenges that needs to be taken on board. And of course, this can happen with a collaboration of all those different stakeholders, be it in terms of educators, policymakers, governments, even the industry. If we all come together, I'm sure all those different challenges can be overcome. And we could see Metaverse really helping our next generation of students. So with this, I will conclude my talk. Of course, in case you have any questions, we might have a session dedicated for questions and answers, and I'll be happy to take on those questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Roushdat. It was a pleasure actually to hear your shared ideas. And actually, my dearest colleague, we have all of our panelists to share their presentations and ideas. Thank you. It was very good to hear what Institute did. Thank you, Natalia. Thank you, Professor Ansary. It was very interesting to understand why your institution was so focused on the Metaverse course worked out for our institution. Christina, it was just marvelous because challenges, yes, I will remember, definitely. And Dr. Roushdat, thank you. It's very interesting. The case is I'm close to your area. I'm not historian. I'm not political science. I'm the teacher of geography primarily. I understand how the threat and STEM subjects will be fond of Metaverse. I understand that. But now I'm working not at school and not in the university. And we have actually some, you have seen institute worked with Metaverse for the last couple of years and then with big activities. And from time to time we have the question, and we would like you to share with us some ideas. For example, with you, Dr. Roushdat, Metaverse instrumental is Metaverse instrumental not only for the professional development, but not for the just raising the interest of the student. But we are UNESCO. You see, it is said here, UNESCO. UNESCO following the programs. Following the programs, you have to follow the sustainable development goals. And some of them are more focused. Greening education, what we can do with it, with Metaverse. Thank you. You explained, Dr. Zhang and Roushdat, you've told about it. But what about some of them are more focused? For example, regional differences. Does it help or not? So what do you say? What's the future of the Metaverse? Or it's better not to have it, because some things are not prepared for the school. Metaverse is not for the school. You have to prepare the Metaverse for the school. That's what we are understanding. So what do you think about it? Sustainable development goals agenda, climate change, inclusion. Is Metaverse the way to achieve it, or we should wait?
And it's a question to all the participants, of course, to all the experts.
I believe it's the right time. Post-COVID, it's really the right time to have different schools, universities really engage in the Metaverse. And it's not really about embarking, like changing everything, but we need to start somewhere. At least part of a program, part of a lecture, that you could integrate some part of like some kind of simulation, some kind of immersive experience, which is part of one lecture. And then you can increase that. So instead of just one lecture, you take like at university level, you take a whole module. And eventually, if this gets accepted, you see the benefits. It will come naturally, I think, that you will see widespread adoption. So if one institution is doing it successfully, you will see very quickly other institutions picking up and doing it on their own, and even improving on what's already there. So I believe that UNESCO maybe can help, like take one school at a time, like do a pilot, but really disseminate what you've been able to achieve and provide support to other schools to achieve the same what you've done, like take one and then disseminate. Yeah.
In different regions. Yes, I see.
Thank you.
About our thoughts about our problem that we have.
Dr. Christina, you seem to be willing to say something.
Yeah, I can pretty much use my own personal example to say why it is important we get involved now. So when I was doing my PhD in 2006 on the Metaverse, everyone thought I was crazy. And some people were making a joke that you got a permanent head damage, which means PhD. And they are thinking, how on earth did you get a full scholarship playing computer games every day? And I have to repeatedly telling them that it is not computer games. It is the next generation of the internet. But the issue is, I think as educator, our role is really to champion societal innovations. So when you try to champion something new, you might not always be appreciated and understood by people around you, but that's why we need to do it even more, because ultimately education is the most powerful tool anyone can use to make our world better, as Nelson Mandela said. So no technology is perfect. And the AI, which is so popular now, it also going through this kind of AI winter during the 1970s and 80s. But technologies are all going around in circles with all this kind of hype going up and down. So it's up to us human beings to figure out how to find efficient user case and promote that user case through amazing platforms like UNESCO and sharing best practice with our peers, so everyone can learn from each other on how to identify the most positive impact we can use technology, say Metaverse, and moving forward. So it's up to us. It's not the technology. No technology is perfect. They can't solve all the issues, but we can.
Yeah, if I can just add on there, just giving a slightly different perspective and being a bit of a devil's advocate as well. I think at the end of the day, if you talk of education, I do not think there's one size fits all, because we're dealing with diversity and we're dealing with, different countries having different developments, what they call motives, etc., and all that kind of thing. So I think in the landscape of education, global landscape of education, there'll be some adopters and early adopters of Metaverse, and there'll be some will be late adopters of Metaverse, and some people will go totally Metaverse and some will not. And those are decisions that, each nation or each institution or each organization has got to take. But I agree with Christine in the sense that at the end of the day, are we going to allow others to dictate what to do with Metaverse, or are we as educators going to play a key role and critical role in determining what is Metaverse going to be used for and how is it going to be used for in education? I think that's a critical point. The second point, I think something that that was also referred to earlier, in the sense that we know that the technology is there, but there are barriers to utilizing the technology. So I think UNESCO's role will be how to lower those barriers. If we talk about open AI, all right, it's open AI now. Can we talk about open metaverse? Can this be championed by UNESCO and open metaverse, concept as well, and utilization of open metaverse assets, etc., kind of thing. So I think there's something for us to consider as well, if you want to level the playing field, because I think at the moment now, the playing field as Christina was referring to was singular tree, as well as you're looking at looking at the landscape. Those who have are going to dominate those who don't have. And I think that is not what UNESCO will be looking at. It's how do we make sure that those who don't have will also have something rather than nothing at all. So I think that's where I think this metaverse debate should be looking at. It's a different take from what has been discussed.
Many thanks, dear experts. We have a question in the box. Very insightful presentation indeed. Are we going to have the presentation slides shared? I suppose the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. So yes, the answer is yes. And let me pick up on and continue what you were talking about before. So Professor Ansary has just mentioned that, and Dr. Christina was also saying the same, that it's not the issue, or it's not the question of one size fits all. However, I suppose we all know this problem, the issue of uniforms, whether there is this age-long debate about whether uniforms should be at schools. If we transfer this debate into the area of metaverse, what do you think? Whether there should be a specialized avatar management solutions for education in metaverse? What would be your ideas on that? Whether it should be there regulations, whether there should be I don't know, laws, specific ways how to implement the avatars in metaverse. Thank you.
Can I just go first here? I think we are at this stage, a juncture of the world, in which technology is slowly overtaking, what we humans are doing, and this is something that worries me as well, and is dehumanizing us to a certain extent. So I think us as humans, we got to set our own parameters. Otherwise, I think, there'll be those people at the periphery who will pull us apart as a society, as a fabric society, etc. kind of thing. And answering your question, much more deeper. One of the slides that I mentioned just now, and one of the issues I mentioned just now, is that at the moment there are no rules. So who sets the rules? Who sets the guidelines? And I think to have uniform global rules as well, may not be the answer. Probably, UNESCO guidelines towards education use of metaverse kind of thing would be an area to go. And for each nation to have their own guidelines, and standards to be established, and of course at institutional level. So I think it's good to go from a global being more guideline, and then more towards national standards and guidelines, and at the institutional level. So I see at that context kind of thing. So if we talk about uniforms, we're talking about, do the avatars also need to have uniforms kind of thing? I think it's something that that each nation have to decide how they would like to engage themselves within the metaverse itself, because each society have their own cultures, their own values, and depends on how liberal they are and how open they are, etc. And these are all considerations that need to go into when you talk about developing guidelines and standards for metaverse.
Thank you.
Actually, this question may be connected with another sphere in which our institution also works. It's common term, digital citizenship. Where is digital citizenship? Where is metaverse? What do you say?
I think that digital citizenship and the metaverse will be very interesting, because there is already a lot of discussion on digital identity. And when we're talking about digital identity, maybe I think in the years to come, there will be more than one digital identity of different students based on different scenarios. So I think maybe go back to the previous questions on standard interoperabilities and what kind of platform should we use for education. I think the issue about metaverse is, as I mentioned, it's not one technology. It's a whole range of technology coming together. It's everything. So if we want to succeed in such complicated ecosystem, we need to be very focused. So when I say very focused, I mean sector focused. Either we have metaverse education platform for medical training, and now all the related software and environments will be tailored towards healthcare. And if we want to say we do aerospace, and then we do dedicated aerospace simulation, which are already widely available through different flying simulators by the militaries, by defense, and by different national academy. So I think when we go down to how to make it work, we need to go down to specific sector and say, what this sector needs in terms of education needs, how can we tailor the metaverse in line with their needs? We should work hand in hand with the industry to say, here is your need, how can metaverse augment your needs that's not available through other technology, and then put them together. We do it not because metaverse is sexy word. We do it because metaverse is the right platform to do the right thing for the right task at the right time. I think that needs to be the focus.
So as far as I remember, in Snow Crash, there were one street and a lot of streets, right? And they were different. Yes, I see. Thank you. Also connected question, how it's possible to overcome the language difference in metaverse. Now, we have the gap. English language is
I think the metaverse is the right platform for for bringing people from everywhere in the world. And with the latest technologies, the AI and all that, we've got so many tools out there already which are capable of live translation. So I really believe like language is no longer a barrier as such in between people from different places around the world. So before we were talking about the universal language, which would be like traditional, be it English or be it Mandarin or something like that. But then now maybe we should consider having each one having their own languages, but it would be up to the platform that would be doing that interfacing between different people with different languages. So if you are speaking Russian to me, you will be sounding like you are speaking English. So I will just hear the English directly. And if I'm speaking English, you want to hear the Russian version of it. This is done live. So the technology is already there. So I believe this would not be an issue at all, the language barrier.
Good.
I can as well. I used to evaluate universities worldwide, and at a few meetings I had with some of the senior leaders of different major academic publishing house, and I think that was like 7 years ago. So I was asking them, do you think the future to address the issue on global academic publishing language is English? Can we make it like allow every single academia in the world to publish in their mother tongue, and it will automatically translate it in the language of their targeted audience? And the answer I get from quite a few big giants in the space, they are saying they are already doing that. The challenge at that time is when you do academic publishing, there are specific terminology in different subject area, which is not that easy to be automatically translated. But with generative AI and with the fast speed of the global race to get much better, like AI, like a processing power with quantum computing, massive computing power, and also I think like a lot of advancements on, like neuroscience, neurolinks, etc. I think it's probably going to be only a matter of time. I would say within the next 5 years, the language issue within Metaverse will be solved.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I suppose, well, looking at the agenda, we are a little bit, it's been 2 hours that we have been here.
Yeah,
so
no,
probably that's going to be our last question. And I hope after
we just started.
after you answer
started
this.
the conversation.
Well, please let me ask the final question, dear experts, and then I hope Natalia will conclude the meeting with a few words. So all of you in your presentations have referred to objectively existing problems, the disadvantages hindering the advance of the metaverse, lack of financial, technical support for the teachers, or for schools specifically, and reluctance of many educators to explore the unknown. So what would be your practical, very shortly, the practical ways how you you see these disadvantages? How is it possible to overcome them practically? What would be your views on that? Thank you.
You let Christine go first. Don't let the lady go first. This is the last question.
Very smart.
To reflect, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Yeah, if I can just jump in then, So I think you're looking at, there's several disadvantages, etc. kind of thing. As I said earlier, there are and there will be a movement to lower those barriers. We're talking about those disadvantages, to lower those barriers. The question is, who is going to take the lead for those for that kind of thing? If we look at during the COVID, open education resources became big, and everybody was using open education resources, the schools, etc., and all that kind of thing. And while OERs has been around for a long time, but the adoption, adopting it became much more prevalent due to the COVID. So normally external, what they call factors, will force people to what they call to adapt and adopt, various technologies. At the moment, Metaverse seems to be more a luxury, more than anything else. It's not a necessity kind of thing. It may be a necessity in certain contexts, is what Christine is talking about, maybe in medical health context, maybe in, very complicated job complex, experiential learning, so very complicated, very expensive kind of thing. So it appears to be very contextualized at the moment. And therefore, what when you look at it is in the context. So in other words, anybody who wants to be in that kind of space, then they will start using Metaverse. But for it to be adopted generally as a kind of technology like the internet, or the computer, or etc., kind of thing, that I think will be delayed until we can just lower the barriers and lower the cost to come down. Because I think there's a lot of infrastructure cost that is involved. There's a lot of training that needs to go in. The understanding is going in. I think we all know that there's so many different interlocking technologies which are coming in at the same time. And I remember when I was in the university, when the email was introduced, kind of thing, many of the senior professors just refused to open the email. But today, that is something that is natural. When they start introducing the internet, some of them didn't know how to use it. If you remember, when we started with Mosaic in the early days, we started Mosaic on the internet, how to as a browser kind of thing. So the browser usage only became much more what they call pervasive and much more what they call ubiquitous when the browsers were made free and cheap, and everybody can go in there and start using it. So I think the Metaverse will be something similar. As long as there is barriers to it, I think it will be only the exclusive, and only those people who see the necessity of using it will start using it. Whereas as you lower what they call the entry what they call barriers, then of course the adoption of Metaverse will pick up speed, and I think more and more things to be done within the Metaverse itself. It's a technology which is there. It's a technology which will be utilized, whether you like it or not, because I think we are living in a world where we would like to test things out virtually before we go to the real world. Because even today, if you want to order food, we just check out first virtually before we order the food. So I think that's something that's become natural. So something that we would do. So I think that's where I am, and I think that's where I think most people would be. It is something that each what they call institution, organization, each university, each school, each nation will have to make those decisions on how they would like to adopt and adapt Metaverse in their learning and teaching. And
when do you predict it is going to happen, approximately?
It will happen. I think the technology is there, whether you like it or not. The train has already left the station, and we have to jump onto the train and latch onto it. It's not, we cannot be an ostrich and just put our head into the sand and say I'm not interested in this technology. It cannot happen that way.
Thank you.
I think that, governments in different countries, they have a leading role to play in the adoption of the Metaverse in the educational sector, especially in public school. So because they are the one funding it anyway. So policymakers need to be convinced that maybe UNESCO could help here by providing some kind of guidelines, how you could try to introduce this in your school, in your country. And of course, the government will need to be really convinced and then provide some kind of support in terms of training, in terms of financial investment in schools, in terms of equipment, in terms of infrastructure, and of course the training themselves will cost. But if the government leads the way, I believe school will have really no choice, because for public schools, it's whatever policies the Ministry of Education has decided. So if they tell you you need to adopt this technology, educators will have to follow through. So if you just leave it on educators, private sectors, even universities, we are a bit more open-minded. We would be trying new things. But for public schools, they have those guidelines to follow from the ministry. So whatever they are told to do, they will do it eventually. Maybe there might be some kind of reluctance to adopt new technologies and all that fear would be there, but eventually they will comply. And as soon as they start seeing the benefits of it, I'm sure everybody will be eager to adopt those technologies. And in terms of timeline, with all those development. Even, you know, in Mauritius, we were very traditional in our approach in education. So it was just going to school, you get a book, copybook, and that's it. But with COVID, we've seen like a radical shift in the way we do education, we do classes. So everybody has shifted dramatically and started using internet. And I believe the metaverse as well could benefit from that kind of shift. And it can happen within, let's say, at most 2 years, with the right support from the government, even from the private sector. Within 2 years, I believe we should be seeing major changes in how we deliver courses in schools.
If I can ask, so you were saying that basically if a public school gets some sort of order from the Ministry of Education, they are going to oblige.
Yeah.
Yes, but then in your presentation, you were saying that at your university, you do not have VR glasses, so you have to you have to loan them. How does this work then?
I
mean, financially.
If I can just jump in, I think at the end of the day, it will be on ROIs and impact. You know, if the ROI and the impact is there, then I think they will make the right decision. They will have to adopt that metaverse.
Again, so basically, it would be up to the government. Even at the university, we do benefit from fundings from different agencies and indirectly from the government. So at the moment, we've got projects where we can include those kind of virtual reality equipment in there, but it's very minimal. And at the moment, we have none. We are just learning. But if the government is convinced, I'm sure they would be eager to provide such equipment. So the funding will be coming through.
Thank you.
So it's
I'm
really
sorry for the provocative question.
No, it's a very good question. I think we need to be pragmatic because, I mean, all the beautiful discussion we're having today is based on the assumption that we have enough financial resources, either allocated by government or contributed by private sector, that will allow us to have enough VR handset in place to allow us to explore different functionality. That's the foundation of our discussion today. So I think in terms of user interface, VR is perhaps not the most intuitive one for wider adoption. So everyone is watching very closely on the next biggest AR interface is coming out. And I think Apple is working some interesting things on that side. So with other few like big tech giants. So maybe once that's in place, imagine every one of us wearing our normal glasses, which become VR glasses, and it will automatically project the content into our eyes and make it really intuitive, affordable, and mobile. And then we will see like wide adoption at scale worldwide. But before that, I think my personal recommendation will be our education using Metaverse should be based on things where students normally pay significantly higher fee. So in the worst scenario, we cannot secure funding directly from government or private sector, but the student is happy to pay because I think the most typical example will be medical surgery. If using this like VR goggles is going to allow them to help save more people's life, and then that's invaluable. That's it. The right investment we can put in. And it's again, like aerospace, it's the cutting edge of any kind of science frontier. I mean, Elon Musk has his latest, like a Starship exploded, but he's still optimistic. So I think we need to cultivate more talent to support that, because anything we can, discover in the space, it can help our agriculture, it can help like all kinds of like different technology, telecommunications, satellites, etc. So we need to be prioritized, very focused, and be pragmatic. Yeah. And
Many
also,
thanks.
I think we need to educate, government policymakers, because if we want to have mass adoption, we need to get them on our side, and they need to see the clear return of investment for their mandate, because a lot of politicians have 3 years, 4 years mandate as an elected officer. They need to see the result within short time. So how could we ensure that's happening? We need to have quick wins, small wins, baby steps to make it happen before wider adoption.
Yes, totally agree. And thank you. Thank you. You know, it's a great opportunity to hear something that meets your own ideas. So thank you.
And I suppose it's time to be concluding our webinar. And Natalia, you're welcome.
Yes, dear colleagues, thank you so much. I was with you during this webinar and was listening to these wonderful, very interesting reports from our experts. Today, we had a very interesting journey into Metaverse. We have learned a number of interesting practices and experiences from different parts of the world, and we can see that there is a great power of Metaverse technologies. At the same time, we need to understand that sometimes the users can face different barriers and challenges in terms of using and application of these new technologies. Sometimes it relates to security, sometimes to inequality of access to technologies, to this landscape of metaverse, of this space, new space. And I think that the most important way and trend of UNESCO's activities in the future should be focused on understanding these barriers, understanding these challenges, and development of different recommendations for overcoming these barriers, overcoming these challenges. For sure, we need to have more research studies. We need to discover more this new landscape for us and for teachers and for learners as well. So I think that we're trying to do it in a different ways, from the teachers' perspectives, from educators' perspectives, from the users' perspectives, as students, for example. But at the same time, UNESCO is also working at the international and regional levels. So what we are going to do is to have more studies, more research regarding Metaverse and its impact on teaching and learning activities, daily activities, I would say. So thank you very much, distinguished experts, for your very interesting, great and motivation that you gave today to us. It's really very impressive to get such very experienced view from your side. I hope that this is only the beginning of our discussion on Metaverse. We will need to have much more discussions and develop different types of recommendations, guidelines, and so on, and even training courses on it. So thank you for your impact, for your power, and let me wish to have more constructive and productive discussions on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, dear participants, for taking your time, for your attention today. Looking forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
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 Have a great day. Thank you.
A great day.
Pleasure for us to meet you all.